Welcome back, everybody, to the Flow State Podcast. My name is Jabir Ali, and today we want to talk about the power of names, and in particular, we want to talk about building trust beyond the service that you're providing, building and establishing a genuine relationship with the customer or the client that you're dealing with, right? We want to turn client relationships and client interactions into lasting relationships, and we want to do that through using your client's name, and you want to also make sure that you have attention to detail, and all of these things will help you establish that authentic connection. So there's a moment that changes the game for everybody in the service industry, and that is when you use somebody's name. Suddenly, people that are quiet will open up. They'll end up being more comfortable, and you'll realize that you can really build that relationship with the client. So we're going to go into this a bit more. First, we're going to roll the intro, and then we'll talk a bit more about why names are super important and how we're going to establish that genuine relationship with clients. All right. So, before we get started, I do want to introduce somebody, and that is my producer, Karim. So, on solo episodes or days where I don't have a guest with me, you guys are going to be hearing a bit from my homeboy who's going to be behind the camera. So, you'll notice that the setup is a little bit different for our solo episodes, but it's more laxed as well. We're going to really just have a conversation and kind of just kick it, shoot the breeze, and really talk about why we think the way that we think. So with that, I'll kind of leave the ball in his court. He can go ahead and introduce himself to you guys. Kareem, take it away.
All right, guys. Yo, nice to meet you guys. My name is Kareem. Y'all can call me Kareem. My full name is Ali Kareem. Too many Alis, you know what I'm saying? But just another one. But y'all can call me Kareem. A little bit about myself. I'm kind of like the brains of the whole operation here that we got. Thank you so much, Jabber, for having me on. And a little bit about me. I'm a big social media guy. I love working with different social media platforms, whether it be YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. I love analytics. I love content and all that. And I'm really trying to help Jobber get to where he wants to be, whether it be with his personal branding, with the podcast, all those sort of things.
It's where we want to be, right? Like he's like you said, he's the brains of the operation. He's the one that's he's the one that's steering, to be honest. I'm just kind of the person on camera looking pretty, and most days I don't really do well at that either. Kareem, do you want to talk a little bit about your background in terms of education, where you went to school, if you're currently in school, all that sort of stuff, what you studied?
Yeah, so I am actually currently still in school. So I am studying at the Ontario College of Art and Design in downtown Toronto. Me and Jabber actually, surprisingly, we actually went to school together. And that's how we kind of met, kind of bonded, and friendship just grew from there.
Yeah, so we went to high school together as well, right? So we went to high school together, then we went to university together. I feel like I had a hand in convincing him to come to the school that I was studying at. So I apologize for that, but
It's
nevertheless,
all good.
so you have a couple months left in your degree, right?
Yeah, so I only have just one semester coming up, and I should be done, and that's pretty much it. And basically, in advertising, a little bit about my program, we really focus on the idea of branding, storytelling, and a lot of, I guess, creating messages that people resonate with, and really on the storytelling aspect, creating stories that inspire people. You know what I mean? Especially when you're in a work setting, whether it be in a banking, in as a lawyer or whatever, you're always telling stories, and it's really important to kind of connect with your audience that you're trying to resonate with, and I think it's really important, and it's really a skill that everyone needs.
Yeah, I think 100%. One of the things that I would say is when it comes to storytelling, you mentioned storytelling, and I think that's really important. Um, Today we're diving into that small, often overlooked tool that can make you unforgettable as anybody that provides a service to somebody. Um, and like I mentioned in the preamble, we're talking about names, right? And we're talking about using names and how to build that trust and loyalty and build that relationship with your client beyond the service that you're just providing, right? So it's the episode isn't just meant for barbers. Obviously, this is a barber podcast. I am a barber, so I can speak from that perspective. But it's meant for anybody that wants to basically be remembered in their field, right? They want to be respected, be trusted. That's the whole point, right? So you mentioned storytelling, and I want to get into a couple client stories just to start off with a bit of some fun stories that we have
100%.
in the past, and just some stories about clients that I've managed to keep around, and they've stuck around with me because of, number one, the service that I provide, but also because of how I treat them as a client, right? So the first is actually one of my clients, Tony. Shout out Tony.
Shout out Tony.
So yeah, the thing about Tony is that he was super quiet at first, right? So when his first appointment that he booked with me was like 12 or 1 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon, like a very random time, not really a time where you have too many people coming into the shop. So at that time, it was actually bad news for me at the time because I wasn't fully booked out. But it kind of was a good thing eventually because it gave me a bit more time to focus on giving him the haircut that he needed, right? Now, that was one of the biggest things. Pardon me. Just give me a moment. One of the biggest things was that, when he first pulled up, like I said, he was very quiet. And we started talking. I got his name right away. I was like, hey, man, what's your name? Tony. Okay, cool. My name is Jabir. Introduce yourself in that way. And right away, it kind of establishes a different connection than what you would expect, right? It's interesting. It's really interesting how that works. And then, moving on, I also asked him about the stuff that he enjoyed to do. So at the time he had a bunch of interviews lined up, and he was like, okay, listen, I need a fresh cut for this interview. I want to make sure that it goes well. So I want to make sure that my visual presents that, right? So I was like, okay, cool. So this is, do you want to go with more of like a fade? Do you want something a bit more classic and a bit more like professional, quote unquote, right? He did something a bit more professional. But then, yeah, we were just chatting about random stuff, right? For him, we were talking about his background, right? Anytime you see somebody that looks like slightly ethnic, I have to ask them just because I'm always very interested. So his background was actually, he's half Azerbaijani, half Italian, which
Wow, that's actually a very interesting mix.
I've never heard of that mix before. You know what I mean? Like it was a super interesting mix. But also we were talking about his we got on the topic of football.
Yeah.
And it was so interesting. So basically, I'm not a big football fan. I know you're a big football fan. So I'll actually frame you this question.
Yeah.
I'll say this. Can you guess, when I asked him, what his favorite football team was, can you guess what his favorite football team was?
So I guess I'm gonna do this off the top of my head, based off of what you tell me. He's kind of like a very well put together guy, right? He's doing these interviews. He likes a little taper. You know what I'm saying? Very professional looking guy. Yeah. So I'm gonna say Liverpool.
Nah, man. It's so funny. It wasn't even an EPL team. Think of another league. Like, you're not even in the right league. Trying to think about that.
Man. You got to give me a hint here, man.
Just think outside the box. Don't think about the very I'll say that for me personally, I've never met another fan of this team.
Okay. Is it in, by chance, Bundesliga by any chance?
Yeah.
Yeah?
It's a Bundesliga team. Yeah.
Bayern Munich? Nah. Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Dortmund?
Yeah, he's a Dortmund fan.
Yo, ain't no way this man a Dortmund fan. How is he Italian? Azerbaijani?
Yeah. No, it threw me off, man, because I was like, dude, there's like, I've never met somebody else that was a Dortmund fan. So that was one thing that I remembered, right? And the second thing I remembered was, okay, he wants to make sure that he's framing himself well for interviews. So next time he comes back, if he comes back, make sure that you ask him about the interviews, right? So all these things, like, you want to kind of pick and choose those little things that you have in the conversation, try to remember those little details, and then you want to recall them, right? So basically, people will respond to that personal attention of you using their name and remembering them in that way. it's important to have that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, the second story that I have is actually a guy that we both know, a mutual that we
Yep.
have, and that's Momo Shivji, right? So Mo Shivji, I've known him for a long time. You've known him for a long
Yep.
time as well,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I remember, one visit he came by. This is back when I was cutting at the crib. This is like almost 2 years ago at this point. You know what I mean?
Golden days, brother. You know
Yeah,
how it was back then.
yeah.
You know
Back
what I'm
back in
saying?
the day when I just used to cut at the crib, right? And yeah, so Shivji and I were just chopping it up, whatever. And he ended up coming back. He really liked the haircut, and obviously because I know him from our other circle where we hang out, uh, for me it wasn't like I really needed to ask him about his name too much. I knew what his name was, most common name in the world, but it was more so like, okay, get to know him and what he likes to do. He was in school at the time, right? So we talked about what he's studying for and his how he was initially at Ryerson, and then I think he changed over schools. He took a semester off, switched
Mm-hmm.
schools, and went to a different university, right? So these are things that we talked about, and then I had built up that connection with him so much, and I didn't treat him like just a number. I
Yeah.
didn't just treat him like, okay, this is just, I need to make sure that I do the cut in 30 minutes, get him out, and then I got somebody else, right?
Yeah.
Took the time, made sure that I invested that time
Mm.
into creating a relationship with him, and as a result, he actually encouraged 2 or 3 different friends of his to come by and get their haircut. So that's why
And I
Nicola,
think that's sorry
yeah,
to cut you off. I think
no,
that's really wonderful because not only are you creating connection, but you're also branding yourself at the same time.
mhm.
And I think one of the things that we kind of don't look at is like going in and keep putting that extra effort, not treating someone like a number, it's treating like a person.
100%, 100%, right? I think it is super important because of that. I mean, Nicholas, shout out
Shout out,
Sefer, both of his
shout out.
boys that came through, and they still come to me for
Yeah.
haircuts, to this day. Actually, it's so funny that encouragement or that kind of like stamp of approval from one of your other clients holds so much weight. I remember when Sefer booked an appointment with me, and I actually got sick that week. He booked it for Thursday, and I got sick on a Tuesday. Wednesday, I was still mad sick, fever, body aches, chills, all of that, right? The whole nine.
Mm-hmm.
And I messaged him that night, and I was like, yo, Sefer, my apologies, man. At the time, I didn't know that it was Momo's boy, too. I was like, yo, Sefer, my apologies, man. I'm super sick. I'm going to have to cancel the appointment. And I had a full day of appointments that day,
Wow,
too, right?
that's mad.
And I was like, yo, Sefer, I mean, like, listen up. Because I can't take you in on this day, maybe I can ask one of the other barbers if they can squeeze you in their schedule. And he was like, honestly, man, I'm good, because like I'm actually Momo's boy, and he was telling me that he wanted that he gets his haircut from you.
Yeah.
So he was like, I actually just want to get my haircut from you so we can push it to next week, right? And I got better. I took him in for a haircut the next week, and that was insane. Like
Yeah.
without even meeting me, without me even giving him a haircut, he had already had so much trust in me. But that's because of the relationship that I had established with Momo,
Yeah.
right? And that relationship had kind of come to fruition in my connection with somebody else. So
Mm-hmm.
not treating somebody like a number could actually lead to more success for you further down the line, right?
Yeah, and I think that's really wonderful. Just you showing your authentic self and like really going the extra mile just for Momo and all that leads to more clientele and even more relations in the chair, and you never know who else is gonna be in the chair.
Exactly.
Right. It could
Exactly.
lead to more opportunities later in life. As
Exactly. 100%. And I think one of the things that taught me was like, clients don't just want haircuts. You know what I mean? Like obviously, whether it's a haircut, whether you're providing some type of service, whether you're doing their advertising in your case or filming a video or whatever the case, whatever it is, they don't just want the product. The whole service needs to be fleshed out, and it needs to be something that they can look at and be like, that service made me feel seen. It made me feel like I was, they actually wanted me. Sorry,
Yeah.
whoops. They actually wanted me to be there, and
Exactly.
they wanted me to be happy with what they were providing me, right? That service is super important. One of the things I wanted to break down, going like just kind of switching gears a little bit, is we talked about names initially, and there's a couple key points that I wanted to talk about with names, which really make a big difference on how you're perceived and the service that you provide, right? So one of the biggest things that we were actually talking about yesterday when we were just kind of brainstorming a little bit was psychology,
Yeah.
right? And your brain basically responds to hearing its own name. It gives you this type of instant validation or whatever the case when you hear your own name. And we actually looked into it, right? So we did a bit of research about it, not too much because I'm not an academic, but basically people will remember how you make them feel, not really what you say. What you say is kind of secondary to that, right? But there's something called the cocktail party effect. And we were talking about this yesterday. Your brain is basically hardwired to detect your own name, even if it's in a loud or busy environment, right? I think at times, like we've talked about when we're in a public place or whatever, when you almost like, you can hear when something sounds like your name. You know what I mean? And that's a crazy big thing because like you are drawn to your own name, right? And when somebody pronounces it and pronounces it correctly, which we'll get into in a minute, but when somebody pronounces it correctly, it's like a priority for you to pay attention and to hear that, right? It also triggers from a mental standpoint and from like a body biological standpoint, it triggers a chemical reaction.
100%.
Right?
There's different endorphins that come out.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Things like dopamine, serotonin. You know what I'm saying? Like all those big chemical brains when you're really in that positive vibe.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, I think it was. I just reading the notes. It was dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin. Right. You're making people feel good by using that name. And we just broke down, why it matters, right? And it's all about, again, the topic of the episode, building that connection, building that respect and trust in between a client where they know that not only do you care so much about the service, but you care about the entirety of the service, not just the product, but the journey as well. A lot of people say it's not about the destination, it's about the journey before the destination,
it's
right?
about the journey for sure.
Right. So I think that's why it matters. But yeah, I mean, one of the things that we talked about kind of within that was using a name effectively. And we're going to kind of go off on a bit of a tangent here. So my apologies to the users or the viewers.
We're going to talk for a little bit.
But basically the tangent was being that we both have ethnic names. We were talking about this yesterday as well. When I was young, back in like junior kindergarten, senior kindergarten, all the way to about, I think, grade 4 or 5, my parents named me Jabir. Jabir is an Arabic name, and the actual way that it's pronounced in Arabic, if for those that know the Arabic alphabet, is Jim Alif Ba Ra, which is pronounced Jabir, right? But obviously, that's tough, even for my own parents, who we're not native Arabic speakers. So they just said, okay, your name is Jabir. That's like the kind of like anglicized, not really, that's just how we would pronounce it, kind of without stressing the...
That's kind of like the tangent that you kind of got.
Yeah, right? Exactly. Yeah, so that's really what it was. And then when I went into school, when I moved to Canada and went to school, everybody called me Jabir. So
that's wild, brother. I will say.
So like for me, it was like, okay, I heard Jabir for basically 5 to 6 years of my life when at a very young age. So I got used to it, and I didn't correct people because even when I tried to, it didn't work. People would keep calling me that. You know what I mean? So it was one of those things where once I got to, I think, about 4th grade, I stopped the class. I stopped the class at one point and I talked to my teacher. I'm like, for the past 5 years, everybody's been getting my name wrong. And she's like, okay, tell us how to pronounce your name correctly. So I was like, my name is not Jabir, it's Jabir. Jabir. Like Ja Morant, Bir. Like you gotta be quick with it. You know what I mean? Bir. And I was like, it's not that difficult. It's just like Jabir, right? And so then people were like, okay, Jabir. I'm like, yo, you gotta shorten it more. Like I'm not a bear. Right? I'm hairy like one, but I'm not a bear, right? Or like, or like even
that's crazy, brother.
Even like somebody like Jabber. Right, they couldn't get it. They couldn't get Jabir. It was Jabir or Jabber. So I was like, okay, you know what? Honestly, we're gonna. I was like, I think I tried for 30 minutes in class, and I was just like, okay, at this point, just call me Jabber.
Did anyone get your name correctly?
Nobody got my name correctly.
No one.
Actually, it's funny enough. I used to have my close friend. We've kind of lost touch now, but we were best friends for about 15 years, and throughout 15 years of we're best friends. He always struggled pronouncing my name. He never got it right in 15 years,
Wow.
right? Now, it's difficult with an ethnic name, and I'm sure you have stories about it as well if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, I can definitely speak on that. I think so. My full name is actually Ali Rayhan Kareem, and when I was younger, a lot of the times when teachers kind of like saying attendance, kind of slander my name. They'd be like Alaran.
Alaran.
And I have to correct them. You know what I mean?
Alaran.
And I'd be
Yeah.
Alaran, and I got so tired of it. I was like, yo, just call me Ali, because it was just
Yeah.
the easier thing to do.
Yeah, exactly.
You know
And
what I
not even the actual way of pronouncing the name, which again, it's an Arabic name, so it's if again for anybody that knows the Arabic alphabet or Arabic language, the name is Ali. It's you have to like
Yeah.
Ali.
It's a Ain,
Right?
know.
Yeah, it's
Type.
an ain. So it's an ain, lam, and then a yeah, right? So that's the name. But even obviously, it's tough with that. So you say Ali, 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 right? But then nowadays, apparently in the West, it's Ali, Ali,
Yeah, man, they
right?
slander it, yo. It should be Ali. You know what I mean? That's, the thing is about common folk. They don't got that extra, like vocal kind of thing. I don't know exactly,
I don't
but
exactly know what it is, but
yeah,
honestly, what I'll tell you is this, and something that just coming back from that tangent is that in I encourage you guys when you're dealing with a client that might have a bit of a tough name to pronounce, try to get better with pronouncing the name in the way that they pronounce their name, right? It's really important. If you have somebody that, obviously, in the case of Tony, Tony's a pretty
shout
easy
out
name,
Tony.
you know. Tony's a pretty easy name to pronounce. But in the case of, somebody else, let's say I have a lot of Persian clients, or Iranian clients, right? I have Puria, I have Farzad, Mehershad, all those guys, right? Actually, I was telling you about one of the barbers at the shop. His name is Alvand, and initially when I first started cutting at the shop, I would say his name very fast: Alvand, Alvand, Alvin, Alvin, Alvin,
Like
right?
Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Alvin and the
Almost.
Chipmunks, right?
Yeah.
But it was just because I was being so quick with it, and then he actually was like, "Yo, it's Alvand, like Alvand."
Alvin.
Right? So I was like, okay, let me try my best to make sure that every time I say his name, I say it the way that he says it, Alvand, right? So in that way, I can make sure that I'm not. We establish a relationship, right? He looks at me and he's like, okay, at least this guy knows how to pronounce my name and say my name properly. That's a big thing, right? So it ends up making you feel more important, and it also ends up you remember more how that person makes you feel every time, right? So if you can really lock that down, that's super important,
Yeah, I
right?
can even speak on experience. Like, I'm sure a lot of you guys can even speak on experience. Like, people that actually say your name correctly, resonates with you rather than someone saying it incorrectly. You probably remember the person that says your name correctly rather than someone who
100%,
doesn't.
100%, 100%, man. Like I think I remember a couple times where I would meet somebody, and maybe they have an Arabic background or whatever the case, but I would meet somebody that I would tell them, my name is Jabir. And they're like, oh, Jabir, right? And I was like, yo, like, what? You said my name properly? Like, it trips me up. You know what I mean? It's a really trippy experience
Like,
when.
yeah, you got it like the first time.
Yeah, exactly,
You know what I'm
exactly,
saying?
right? Like, it's the first time where it's like, okay, that's that's really good. Like I'm happy with the fact that he was able to pronounce my name properly, right? So it you remember that feeling. You remember that feeling and it sticks with you, right? I want to give you guys some tips when it comes to dealing with clients. Um, Obviously, we were talking about getting their name and getting it right properly and getting it even the way that they pronounce it, making sure that you pronounce it correctly. But you want to basically ask them their name and then repeat it. Repeat their name back to them when you're first introduced to that person. And you want to sprinkle it in naturally in the conversation. So let's say my client's name is Jonathan. I'm not gonna be what's happening. What's happening, man? What's your name? Oh, my name is Jonathan. Okay, Jonathan. So what are we doing today, Jonathan? What would you like with your hair, Jonathan? Jonathan. Like, relax a little bit.
Like,
Like
it
let
has
it
to come like
let
naturally.
let it breathe. You know what I mean? Like let it breathe. Sometimes you throw a man in there, dude, whatever the case, my dog, whatever you want to, whatever kind of comes naturally to you. You don't always gotta call them by their name, but make sure that you do sprinkle it naturally in the conversation. Um, you also want to get one or two personal details about that person. So whether it's their job or what they're in school for, a hobby that they like to do, their background is another one. So those are four right there. You can kind of break it down, and that's going to lead you into another conversation. And The big one is that you want to reference it. Like we said before, you want to reference it on the next visit. The next time that that person comes into your shop, comes into the chair, or comes into whatever service that you're providing, you want to make sure that you follow up with one of those things and you ask them how that thing is going. Let's say he had a job interview. Next time you ask, did you end up getting the job? If yes, that's great. If no, okay, well, what happened? You know, that's another thing that you can talk about. Sometimes it's not always going to be positive, but it will always be something, right? And that's always something that you can talk about to further that relationship that you have with that person, right?
Yeah, I 100% agree, most definitely. And I think that doing like the little things, like remembering, oh, he went, for example, Jonathan went for a job interview, whatever, right?
Yeah.
He will remember you for that one small detail that you remembered about him, whether it be him going for a job interview, he loves Dortmund somehow, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All those little things, little key things kind of play like a key part in, creating a relationship for the
Exactly.
future for sure.
Exactly. Right. And I think that's a big thing. You want to go from turning your interactions with people from transactions to building those relationships, right? The small details definitely matter. And you want to follow up, but you want to do so casually. You don't want to make it seem like you're forcing it, right? And I think we talked about it a little bit yesterday, and we were talking like how quickly do you think that thing will come to somebody? You
Yeah.
know,
So I talked a little bit about that, and my question to you is that something that happens overnight, or is that something you need to train?
100% no. Like it takes a while. It takes a while to build that because I'll give you a story. All my I have an older brother. My older brother is 11 years older than I am. And all my life pretty much I've always been kind of like his shadow. You know, everywhere he would go, I would follow. When it came down to meeting people or having conversations with people, he would lead and I would kind of just chill. I wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
really say much, right? And it wasn't until about 2019, which is what, about 6 years ago, where he moved out. And now I found that instead of being in the shadow, I was in the
You
spotlight.
were in his spot pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I didn't have somebody that I was kind of waiting behind. So I had to learn how to talk to people. I had to learn how to converse and how to establish those relationships with people. And it's something that I'm still learning, and it's been 6 or 7 years. So I think that you're always building that skill. You're always flexing that muscle, and it's like when you go to the gym, right? If you stop going to the gym and you stop, lifting 20s, you soon enough you're only gonna be able to lift 15s or 10s,
Yeah.
right? So you got to make sure that you continue to flex that muscle, continue to work it out, because if you don't use it, you lose it,
Mm.
right? So
And
that's an important thing. I think you don't get it right away. You
and
never do.
adding to actually Jobber's point, a lot of the time you're gonna have different people, different interactions, but the one key thing is you can always take the things you learn from each interaction and apply it to the next one.
Yeah, I think you can. You're always gonna get those little tips and those little kind of lessons for yourself, right? We always focus on becoming 1% better every day. I think that's a really big thing, right? We always want to strive to improve no
Most
matter what.
definitely.
Yeah, we want to strive to improve no matter what. Um, and I think that's a big thing, right? Like you want to l- remember the things that you did previously, and you'll tell yourself, okay, I think that I could do better in this way or in this way, right? Kind of lock in and focus on those things, and then try to implement them the next time somebody comes into your chair. Uh, and I think that's ultimately how you get better at that sort of stuff, right? So I have a challenge for the audience actually, and that's if you stop doing what you did tomorrow, whether it's anything service based, right? Even if you work a 9 to 5, but the way that you interact with people, if you stop doing that tomorrow, if you stopped interacting with people tomorrow, if you just weren't available, let's say, would the people that you interact with notice? Would they notice that you're missing? Would they move on? Would they notice that you're missing because of how you make them feel or simply because of the service that you provide? It's always easy to find somebody that provides the similar or even sometimes better service that you provide. but nobody is going to be able to make somebody feel the way that you make them feel, because that is entirely based on you. Nobody is going to be nobody can be you more than you, right? Nobody is able to do you better than you. So that's a big thing, right? Make sure that you're treating people exactly how you think is the best way to do so. Nobody else is going to be able to mimic that or match that, and that's going to create that lasting relationship.
Yeah, most definitely. And I really think really just honing on like the little things. It doesn't even have to be like a grand gesture or anything like that. It could just be as simple as, a smile, or even just having like a similar um, hobby that you guys share and really talk about those type of topics, and really, hone in on the key details that will create a lasting relationship in the future.
Absolutely. And I think just moving on from that, we have a couple rapid fire practical takeaways, kind of stuff that you can remember whenever you're dealing with people, right? So, kind of some stuff that I actually like, a checklist almost. I want you to use a client's name at least 3 times during whatever service you're providing. So for me, if I'm cutting somebody's hair, and we talked about Jonathan, I don't would just use that as a placeholder name. But let's say I meet somebody, I get their name. Their name is Jonathan. Okay, cool. Okay, Jonathan, how you doing? What's the plan today with the cut? Cool. Keep going on with that. About halfway through, maybe you'll ask, "Oh, so man, what do you do for work?" He tells you whatever he does for work. "Oh, Jonathan, I think that's really interesting, man. I think honestly, like, I have a really big question about that, let's say, and it can lead you to into something else, right? Okay, Jonathan, how do you like the cut towards the end of the haircut, right? Everything looking good? Or, the 3 or 4 times you want to throw it in. Max, you don't really need to force it, right? Let it come naturally. And then that small detail. Remember the small detail. Remember, you know, sometimes you even remember stuff that you don't think you would. Like, I had a client tell me that I was talking to him about Bali and traveling to Bali. And he was like, honestly, man, I have a trip to Bali coming up. I'll let you know how it goes. So
Wow, that's amazing.
so the next time he came by for a haircut, I asked him, I was like, how was Bali? And would you recommend it? Because of the conversation that we previously had. And he was like, honestly, man, I think Thailand is probably the better spot, because he went to both of them. He went to Bali and he went to Thailand. And he was basically like, yeah, like, I honestly think that Thailand is the spot. It's cheaper. It has this, that, whatever the case. So that was something that we thought about, where I was like, okay, well, cool. I wouldn't have had this conversation with him prior, but I had to set that up. And then, like, it's almost like when you're playing volleyball, right? You gotta set the ball before you can spike it, right? So, but you gotta set it yourself and spike it yourself. It's kind of all on you.
Yeah.
You have to set the conversation up, but then you also have to take it home from there.
Yeah. So imagine you actually never ended up even talking about Bali in the first place. You probably would have never got any insight on this guy going on a trip and all that.
Yeah.
Right?
And now, honestly, even better. Like, I could probably go to Thailand and I'd be like, I think this was a better choice because of the advice or the interaction that I had with a client that told me that Thailand was better than Bali, right? So remember the small details. Stop treating every client or a lot of your clients like a number. And I think you might have had a question about this that you wanted to ask me.
Yeah. My question to you is, speaking on numbers and speaking on trading paper, people like main character energy. That's kind of like what we're going around today, the topic. Has there ever been a moment where you've treated someone like a financial transaction and not really as a main character type encounter, and you've lost a client? Is that something that's happened to you?
I think it definitely has. And I don't have a specific example, because I think when I had first started cutting hair, I was so focused on getting the haircut right that I wasn't focused on getting the interaction right. Right. It was just in and out, try to focus, really dial it in, right? And make sure that I was churning out a service and a product that I was happy with. But because of that, there were times where I didn't focus on making sure the client was happy with how I was giving the service, right? And so back when I was cutting, at my old place, I there were a lot of the clients from that place I don't cut anymore,
Yeah.
and that's just because over time, if you're not able, it's not like you can do it once. It's not like you get their name once, you remember the one thing once, and you're done. This is a constant thing. You gotta go and make sure that no matter who your client is, no matter how often they come by to the shop, you're always engaging with them. You're
Mhm.
always creating new folds and new ripples in that relationship, because those are the things that are going to keep them around. They're going to be supporters rather than just clients. They're going to want to see you grow and see how your work changes as well as how your interactions with them change, right? They're establishing the relationship just the same way that you are, except you're dealing with maybe 100 people a day sometimes. A lot of people aren't dealing with that many people in a day. So they're not focused on creating relationships with all those people, but you are, because that, especially working in a service industry, you are meant to do that. That is your job. You're meant to make sure that people feel comfortable, right? So I think definitely I have had situations like that, but I think nowadays trying to make sure that at the forefront of your mind is maintaining a relationship with your clients,
Mhm.
making sure that you develop that consistently every time, you never let up. That's kind of what makes sure that that doesn't happen to you, right? Every interaction will build your personal brand. Every interaction will help make sure that those clients keep coming back, right? And ultimately, you want to make sure that they feel valued, and that's a big thing, right?
Yeah, most definitely I can speak on that. Like treating people almost like almost like a friend, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to treat them, make them feel comfortable, you know what I'm saying? Whether it be barbering, whether it be in my industry, advertising, I know for a fact that especially in advertising, you're working with a lot of the clients, right? You want to make the client feel special, right? You make them feel that kind of thing I was talking about earlier, main character energy, putting that positive energy, you know what I'm saying,
Mm-hmm.
really sets the scene, and that's how you kind of grow, not
Mm-hmm.
as only as a person, but also your personal brand and also your connections as well, because you never know what kind of connections the person in the chair could have, what kind of connection the client could have, all those sort of things.
Exactly. So I think just some deeper takeaways, right? Like you said, treat people like the main character. Treat people like that. They have that main character energy, right? Before you master the service that you provide, master the connection that you provide with that person, right? And remember that names matter. Names matter psychologically. Names matter. They make us feel so many different feelings like that are positive, right? And that's extremely important. It's almost kind of manipulative a little bit, but not really. Like you're given a name for a reason,
Yeah.
right? So use that name and try your best to understand. If somebody has a difficult name to pronounce, sometimes you gotta go and you gotta go home, write it down in your notes, write it down phonetically, maybe figure out how you're gonna almost recite, quote unquote, that name. That way when you come back, you're able to get that name right, and they're like, wow, nobody's ever pronounced my name correctly before, like
It's
that's
like you're taking that, sorry to cut you off, I think
yeah.
it's that taking that extra step, because I was speaking on earlier how, so when someone said my name correctly, it really just held a lot more weight
Yeah.
compared to when someone held it incorrectly, for
Yeah.
example, right?
It's like, are they taking the easy way out? Are they taking the easy way out, or are they actually wanting to get to know me as a person, and they want to establish that connection and relationship with me, right? So, like I said again, and I'll keep repeating it, right? People don't remember the product that you're giving them. They don't remember what they're walking away with. In the case of a haircut, let's say people remember the haircut. Hair grows back, and it grows back quick, right? Within a week, you're gonna have to get another haircut. With maybe 2 weeks, maybe a month, right? Like it doesn't stay fresh for too long, but they will remember how you make them feel. They'll remember being seen by you, right? So use their name, remember those details. That's how you'll build a loyalty that nobody else can replace. People might be able to replace the level of work that you do when it comes to the fade, when it comes to the service. Let's say you do video, let's say you do advertising. Like, they might be able to replicate that or do it better than you, but nobody's going to be able to replicate the service that you can provide to that person. So if
Most
this
definitely.
episode helped you, I want to get you guys and ask you guys to send it to somebody that you think would benefit from it, no matter what the field is, right? I think that's really important, and making sure that no matter what you do, you understand that establishing a connection with people in the service industry is super important, right? Uh, and do you have any closing remarks, Kareem?
Yeah, most definitely. And also, guys, with names and all that, when you're conversing with other people, whether it be clients, family, friends, your peers, always try to be your most authentic self at the end of the day. Never try to force something on someone, or just be your authentic self and let that shine towards other people. You know.
Let that shine through, right? I think that's one of the things I said, and one of the things that I mean as well is, you know, it just like I said before, nobody else is going to be able to be you better than you. Nobody else is going to be able to replicate yourself,
Of course.
right? You have your own charm and your own unique kind of skill set, and you're going to have to capitalize on that. And that's how you make sure that you're really captivating the people that you're around. So I want to thank you guys very much for tuning in on this second episode of the Flow State podcast. My name is Jabir Ali. I'm here with Karim. And yeah, Karim, if you have anything left to say, I think you can go ahead and do that. Otherwise, we can call it a wrap.
Yeah. I appreciate you guys all for the support on the last video. I want you guys to turn on post notifications so you're always up to date with newest episodes, as well as subscribe, like, and if you guys like this episode and you like the stuff we're talking about, the content and all that, please leave suggestion comments. I'm really open to looking into different.
That's a big one. That's a big one. Sorry to cut you off, but yeah, like I think having those comments and stuff that like we have a whole system in place now where we come up with ideation and whatever the case with regards to what we're going to talk about. And I think one of the biggest things is we don't know. Like I said last episode, I got a pea-sized brain, right? Like I don't really know what's going on in general, but especially when it comes to this sort of stuff, if anybody has any questions that they think that I'll be able to answer, given my background in the work that I've been doing, I just need to know those questions. And I think then you can go ahead and we'll really figure them out. And yeah, I think that way we have stuff to talk about, right? And that's important as well.
Most definitely.
All right, man. So I think with that, guys, we're gonna wrap it up here. Thank you guys so very much for tuning in to this episode. We hope to catch you guys on the next one. Go ahead and make sure that you guys like the video, comment, subscribe. The Instagram is below. The TikTok is below. The audio is on Spotify if you want to do the podcast on Spotify, everything like that. So YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, check it all out. All the links are going to be below in the description. We hope to see you guys next week. Take care. Peace out.